The conflict between Iran and Israel has entered a prolonged and increasingly complex phase marked by sustained missile attacks, coordinated strikes, and mounting civilian and infrastructure damage. What initially appeared as a high-intensity confrontation has now evolved into what analysts describe as a war of attrition, with both sides adjusting tactics for long-term pressure rather than rapid escalation. The war itself intensified after late February 2026, when Israeli and U.S. strikes on Iran triggered a broader regional confrontation that continues to expand. Across Israel, daily life continues to be disrupted by incoming missile alerts, forcing civilians into shelters at irregular intervals. The persistent threat has created a sense of uncertainty as attacks occur not only at night but throughout the day, stretching emergency systems and civilian endurance. Reports indicate thousands have been injured and thousands more displaced as a result of missile strikes, with impacts reported across major cities, including Tel Aviv and Dimona. At the same time, Hezbollah, Iran's key regional ally, has intensified its operations from Lebanon, reinforcing fears of a coordinated multi-front strategy designed to stretch Israeli defenses. The group has carried out repeated attacks on northern Israel, including incidents that have caused fatalities, further escalating tensions along the border. Well, fully yes. These volleys of Iranian-fired missiles keep making Israelis head to shelters, sometimes all across the day in 24 hours. Recent battlefield patterns suggest a notable change in Iran's missile campaign. While earlier stages saw large-scale barrages intended to overwhelm defenses, the current approach appears more measured and deliberate. Israeli officials say the number of missiles has decreased significantly compared to earlier waves, even as attacks continue regularly. But the issue is that the Israeli ministers are talking about a decrease in the number of rockets being fired from Iran into Israel to a steady 10 missiles per day. This shift aligns with broader assessments that Iran's launch capacity has been reduced after Israeli strikes targeted much of its missile infrastructure. At the same time, intelligence assessments suggest the reduction may also be strategic, allowing Iran to sustain pressure over a longer period rather than exhausting its arsenal quickly. Instead of overwhelming defenses in one wave, missiles are now launched in smaller numbers throughout the day, forcing repeated shelter alerts and disrupting normal life. They are scattered across different hours of the day. That makes Israelis need to go to shelters all the time, almost. That disrupts life. Despite the lower volume, the impact remains significant. Iranian missile strikes have continued to cause casualties and damage, with recent attacks injuring civilians and damaging residential areas. In some cases, advanced warheads and cluster munitions have been used, making interception more difficult and increasing the danger to civilian populations. That also is signaling that Iran might be interested in a war of attrition, keeping the number of missiles limited low, but at the same time keeping it steady every day. This evolving strategy reflects a broader shift in the nature of the conflict. Rather than seeking immediate escalation, Iran appears focused on maintaining continuous pressure on Israel's defense systems and population, while also attempting to deplete interceptor resources over time. Analysts note that even highly advanced systems cannot guarantee complete protection, especially under sustained attack. Parallel to Iran's campaign, Hezbollah has maintained a steady pace of attacks from Lebanon, opening a persistent northern front. At the same time, we are seeing more volleys being fired from Hezbollah into the Israeli territories. Around 30 launched this morning. These attacks have become a daily occurrence, adding to the strain on Israel's defense infrastructure. Hezbollah's continued operational capability, despite ongoing Israeli strikes, highlights the complexity of the conflict and the difficulty of neutralizing multiple threats simultaneously. So we are talking about a coordination between the two parties that has also been worrying Israelis in terms of the high level of coordination between these two parties. The coordination between Iran and Hezbollah reflects deep strategic ties. Military analysts point to increasing evidence that operations are being aligned across fronts, suggesting a broader regional strategy rather than isolated actions. This coordination has heightened Israeli concerns about facing simultaneous threats from multiple directions. The wider conflict has also drawn in neighboring regions. Israeli operations in Lebanon have intensified, with plans to establish a buffer zone extending into southern Lebanon. This move has sparked international concern and raised fears of further escalation, as Hezbollah has vowed to resist any such expansion. The humanitarian impact has been severe. In Lebanon alone, over 1,000 people have been killed and more than 1 million displaced, while infrastructure destruction continues to mount. All in all, since the beginning of the war, around or nearly 18,000 claims for damage that has been incurred by Israelis has been filed to the government inside Israel. The cumulative toll is becoming increasingly visible. Thousands of damage claims have been filed, reflecting widespread destruction to homes, businesses, and public infrastructure. At the same time, the financial and logistical burden of maintaining air defense systems is growing, particularly as interceptor stockpiles are consumed over time. The conflict has also exposed vulnerabilities in Israel's defense systems. While systems like Iron Dome have historically been highly effective, recent attacks have shown that no system can provide complete protection, especially against newer missile types and coordinated strikes. All of that is happening while the Israeli officials say they will continue to lobby for more time to keep striking targets in Iran. Israeli strategy has also evolved as the war has progressed. Initial ambitions appear to have been reassessed, with officials acknowledging the challenges of achieving broader political objectives, saying that maybe the goal of toppling the regime is not as realistic as they thought it would. Instead, the focus has shifted toward more defined military goals, including degrading Iran's missile capabilities and addressing concerns over its nuclear program. But at the same time, they want to diminish the ballistic missile program and what they say is the nuclear threat coming from Iran. Despite ongoing diplomatic efforts and discussions about potential negotiations, there's little indication that the conflict will end soon. Both sides appear committed to continuing their campaigns, albeit with evolving tactics. What is unfolding is no longer a short-term exchange of strikes, but a prolonged strategic contest defined by endurance. Iran's steady missile launches, combined with Hezbollah's persistent attacks, suggest a deliberate effort to maintain pressure over time rather than seek a decisive blow. For civilians across the region, the consequences remain immediate and severe: disrupted lives, damaged infrastructure, and a constant state of alert. As the conflict continues, the defining feature is not rapid escalation, but sustained pressure, signaling a war that may be measured not in days or weeks, but in endurance.